Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com, we breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with your Week 9 Thursday night football sit starts. Solo show tonight. My man Truth has some trick-or-treating to do. Guess we could give him the night out family. Guess gets precedence over fantasy this one time. No, of course, we are hoping he is having a good time out there. Hopefully you guys are having a good time celebrating your Halloween. Happy Halloween to all of those that celebrate, whether you're trick-or-treating with the kiddos, handing out candy, or just getting ready for some football. We are here to get the action started. So let's dive right into the Texans at Jets. This is a weird line. I'm sure you've already heard this, but if not, the Texans are actually the underdogs. The 6-2 team here is the underdog to the 2-6 Jets. Makes no sense to me, and so you can probably already get a sense of where I'm leaning. I'm going Texans. I think the Texans win this game. Don't know if it will even be that close, and you're giving me 2.5 points if I want to take them. It makes no sense to me at all, and that's probably why the Jets are the better bet here. Who knows? But ultimately, I think the Texans are the better team, even with all the injuries. I know the Jets aren't as bad as the record shows, and I know the Texans aren't as good as the record shows, but there is something to just winning these games, to the vibes in the locker room, and it could not be any worse than it is in New York. And maybe that's why they'll come out fire and brimstone and rally the troops and ultimately take over. Who knows? I don't really expect that, though. We shall see. But I'm going Texans. I think I'll take the over here still. Actually, you know what? No, I'm thinking the under. I don't think the Houston offense is going to be overly problematic, a lot of firepower. No, they're not going to have their usual guys, and they're really not that explosive anyways. So ultimately, I do think this becomes more of a defensive battle, and I just have more faith in the Texans' defense at this point to hold out Aaron Rodgers and these Jets, which, again, is probably why I'm moronic. We already have about 25 questions. Get them on. Continue storming in, whether you're at Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching from. Thank you again so much for spending your Thursday night with me, your Halloween with me. We'll get to all those questions in a second. I just have 5 quick storylines I am going to cover as we go. If you can hit that thumbs up button for your boy and help us get out to more people, it would be so greatly appreciated. Let's dive on in here. Is it safe to trust Tank Dell tonight? The most often asked question I am getting so far for this Thursday night football game in the DMs and elsewhere. Can you trust this man who has really just been rough all season? It's really tricky. I just look at this offense and I don't see the same Texans offense. I don't see the same Tank Dell right now either. Matthew Harmon, one of my favorite film experts out there, especially for wide receiver positions, he broke this down a few weeks ago and just said this is not the same Tank Dell. He's not separating at the same rate. And you look at his average separation score, whatever advanced metric you want to back up the tape, and it's just not the same player right now. And I mean, understandably, the man got shot earlier this offseason. I don't know that we should be expecting the same guy here. And yet we also have a last man standing type of narrative here. There's nobody left. Stephon Diggs done for the season with the ACL, at least for this game. Nico Collins remains on the IR, so he will also be out for this one. So it now becomes, who else is there to target? And we're going to cover that in the next question here. The next burning question is who else can catch passes from the CJ Stroud of the Texans here. But ultimately, can you trust Tank Dell? Well, I look at this Jets team, and I do see a couple silver linings here. Yes, they're only 30th in actual fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, but when you switch that to schedule-adjusted fantasy points, they're actually pretty solid. They're 23rd schedule-adjusted fantasy points, so not great. Still not a plus matchup, but not nearly as bad as the 30th in actual fantasy points would imply because they've really just faced no one, these Jets defense here. So you look at the wide receiver ones against the Jets so far this year. Debo, 16.2. Calvin Ridley, 22.7. Demario Douglas, 11.3. Justin Jefferson, 12.2. That was impressive that they held him to that low. Then you got Shakir did not play for the Bills, so Curtis Samuel had like an 8-point day. Pickens had 19.6 against them. And the Pats, again, they have no wide receivers. Kayshon Boutte had 6.1 last week. But ultimately, you see here that list, you hear a lot of unimpressive players. Calvin Ridley has done almost nothing this year. He had 22 points against them. Pickens, I know it was Russell Wilson's first game, but Russell Wilson carved this defense up. So ultimately, from a matchup standpoint, I do think you can play Tank Dell here, especially with the volume on the way. You look at his season last year compared to this one, averaging 15 PPR points per game last year. And that was actually with that week 13 0 in there. So it was actually over 17 points per game when you take that 0 out. He had 27% top 12 weeks, 27% top 24 weeks, 54% of the time, this guy was a top 24 wide receiver. He's done that just once so far through 8 weeks this season. And that came in week 6 against the New England Patriots. Otherwise, he has been outside of your top 36 wide receivers each and every week, which is spooky. And it is a matter of volume. Last year, Tank Dell had 10-plus targets in 4 games of 13 games. He averaged 7.5 targets per game. This year, he's averaging only 5.4 targets per game. He has not hit 10 targets a single time. His season high is 9 targets. But again, who else are they going to throw to? I have a hard time believing Tank Dell will not see at least 9 targets, if not 10. And that 9-target day was his only top 24 performance, again, against the Patriots, where he had 18.7 PPR points. So I do have him at wide receiver 21. He's up there right there as a starter, in my opinion. It does obviously matter who else you have. I got a question earlier today, Tank Dell or Tony Pollard, for example. I'd go Tony Pollard, Tank Dell or Brian Thomas, assuming he plays. Assuming he plays is Brian Thomas. Now, that's another question for another day. That would depend on who your backup is if Brian Thomas sits. But yeah, I would much rather have Brian Thomas in my lineup. So let us know who your options are. I will probably go Tank in a lot of the wide receiver versus wide receiver comparisons, but the flex gets trickier and different situations arise there. Moving on to the man throwing him the rock, another man underwhelming this year is CJ Stroud. The Jets, not a great matchup for him to rebound either. 28th in points allowed to quarterbacks, 13.8 fantasy points per game surrendered by the Jets defense. That's the 5th fewest in the league, and it's also 5th fewest in schedule-adjusted points as well. But we did just see Russ have 24 points. The Patriots kept quarterbacks combined for 19 points between Drake May and Jacoby Brissett, and Josh Allen had 24 points across their last 3 games. So they've been a little leaky lately. Sauce Gardner does not look all that solid this year. And you can move the ball on this defense. And certainly you can run it down their throats, and then maybe the quarterback ends up throwing some touchdowns. So I'm not overly concerned about the matchup with Stroud. It's more so just where has the production been? Last year, averaging 274 pass yards per game. He's down to 243 so far on the season. He's only cleared 300 yards twice on the year, a feat that he achieved over 6 times last year, including a 470-yard day, a 384-yard day. We are not seeing nearly the same efficient, gunslinging, high-flying CJ Stroud, and it's largely due to Joe Mixon. He has been great. They're winning, too, 6-2. That's why I don't expect a massive change, even though I do think they're far more dangerous if they're putting the ball in CJ Stroud's hand. For whatever reason, they have not been opening this offense up. I was really hopeful Bobby Slowick, after an impressive first year, would be one of those rising young star play callers, and it's just been an ugly situation here. Not nearly as aggressive as expected after they went after Tank Dell, and I imagine with all these after Stephon Diggs, rather, and with all these injuries at wide receiver, I imagine Joe Mixon will continue to be fed. If you're playing like DraftKings captains, those type of situations, I'm certainly looking at both running games, and more so the Texans running game, Joe Mixon, for my option tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if he took on a bit of the receiving workload, but he has changed the entire Joe Mixon, the entire complexion of this offense. And CJ Stroud is down because of it. And so I have him ranked below Joe Flacco, below Jameis Winston. I am not playing CJ Stroud in the vast majority of decisions. My brother was asking me Tua or CJ Stroud, and I'm going Tua in this case. Do not trust CJ Stroud myself tonight. And if you guys have questions on him, let me know. But I am -5 ECR on CJ Stroud, taking a stand. Have not loved what I've seen so far this year. He has just 2 top 12 games on the season, and ultimately has been one of the most underwhelming players in all of fantasy. So no CJ Stroud for me tonight. Let me know if you guys do have any questions about him, though, because of course there is a line, Daniel Jones or CJ Stroud. You probably don't need to ask those type of questions anyways. But yeah, like I said, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, I'm going those guys over Stroud myself. I actually like Stroud more than Caleb Williams. I'm not a Caleb Williams guy at all. But yeah, so that's where I am leaning with your quarterback decisions with the Tank Dell, 2 of the more common questions I've been getting this week. Now for showdown-related slates, or if you are desperate for a Hail Mary, and you must be pretty damn desperate if you're asking this one, who else is going to catch passes for the Texans tonight? Xavier Hutchinson has been the one dominating the snap so far, the route so far, around 70% since Nico Collins has dropped out with this onto the IR there. But a grand total across these 3 games without Nico Collins of 2 targets. Not 2 targets a game, 2 total targets. 0, 1, and 1 target across the last 3 games. He is absolutely just a sacrificial X. Good blocker, I guess, Xavier Hutchinson, running some wind sprints, kind of that Romeo Dobbs, but a poor man's, like a broke man's Romeo Dobbs. That's how I would look at Xavier Hutchinson right now. So no, I have no interest in him at all in these DraftKings situations. Certainly, you don't want to be starting him at all. If you had to go to a Texans wide receiver other than Tank Dell, John Mechie would be my best guess, and I think that's pretty standard across the industry. I'm not saying anything shocking here, but I was surprised to see just 9 routes last week. 4 targets on him, though. The man was getting open. He was commanding the ball come his way. He was, though, splitting time with Robert Woods. He's not a great run blocker, so ultimately that does hinder a bit of the upside for John Mechie in terms of field time, in terms of route share. But it was very encouraging to see him get those high targets per route last week. And so if I had to take a flyer on any of these guys, never mind the fact that John Mechie is cheaper on DraftKings too, Mechie would be the one, the second-round pedigree, the Alabama history there. I loved him in college, thought he was an absolute stud. So maybe, just maybe, he regained some form. A lot of people have been talking about Dalton Schultz. Can I toss him into my tight end this week as a result of all these injuries? If you're desperate, I guess. But he's outside my top 12. I'd rather not have him in there. The man's season high so far is 7.2 half PPR points. That was last week. Otherwise, he's been below 5 in every single game other than 2. Really, really unencouraging. 0 touchdowns on the season. The tight end 25 so far in terms of fantasy points. So, yeah, Dalton Schultz should see an uptick. He has seen 6 targets or more in 3 straight games, but he's doing legitimately nothing with them. So I have no interest in putting Dalton Schultz into my lineup. The fourth and second to last story here, and as keep getting those questions coming in, guys, look forward to answering them. Will Breece Hall be the elite running back one Breece Hall tonight, or is Braylon Allen going to sneak in some more? So you look at 3 games so far since Robert Salah and Nathaniel Hackett got the axe there in New York. And the first 2 games, it was like, oh my God, Breece Hall is ready to win leagues again. We look at the target shares, or rather the snap shares and rush attempt share. 86% snaps, 86% rush attempts in week 6. 82% snaps and 80% rush attempts in week 7. Dominating the workload. Both of those were the top 2 snap shares and rush shares that he has ever seen in his career. And then it comes back to next week. Everybody thinks, okay, Breece is out of a timeshare. He is the true feature back. He is going to go bananas. Should mention, by the way, 19%, 25% target share in those 2 weeks for Breece Hall as well. What did we get last week? 74% of snaps. Okay, a little small decrease, but not the end of the world. Except you see 57% rush share, 16 carries to 12 carries for Braylon Allen. He had 43% of the rushes and 33% of the snaps, ultimately vultured a touchdown as well. Now, this is all for naught, and ultimately for most of you, because Breece Hall is going to be in your lineups if you have him on your fantasy teams. I get it. You can't really bench this guy. There have been a few questions I've gotten where like people have like 4 top 5. Right? I don't know what these 8-man leagues or whatever this thing is. There are a few handful of questions I've seen where I'd bench Breece Hall. Let me know if you think you have a worthwhile question on him. I just wanted to note that this looked like a clear-cut, absolutely separation, and now we still have Braylon Allen mixing in. And if you have Braylon Allen, I wanted to bring him up too, just because he's a great stash ahead of tonight. He's still out there in over half of leagues. I think he is the most elite handcuff in fantasy football. If something does happen to Breece Hall, this dude's a monster, absolute beast, can catch the rock as well. And now he has some handcuff benefits as well in terms of standalone value because he can actually get some volume. 12 carries is no joke. So, yeah, I like Braylon Allen on my benches, which is the main reason I put that point up here. And the last question I have for you guys tonight, the last burning issue is, can you trust Davante Adams? Is this going to be his Jets coming out party? We shall see, but I will honestly admit I am shocked that Garrett Wilson has held down the fort here as the true wide receiver 1. He has seen 9 and 8 targets in the 2 games since Adams arrived as compared to 7 and 7 for Davante Adams. And meanwhile, Garrett Wilson, 11.1 and 16.3 PPR fantasy points, the wide receiver 20 in back-to-back weeks, whereas Adams, 6 and 9.4. Really uninspiring so far from Davante Adams. I think we all assumed, me included, he gets in here and Rodgers is just going to hammer him with looks and he's going to make sure to get his guy a touchdown. Still hasn't happened. All that to say, I'm putting some money on Davante Adams, first touchdown scorer of the night. I think Rodgers is going to make it a point at home. I don't think they're going to have too much trouble driving, at least early on. We've seen in the script they've done well in opening drives. So I like Davante Adams to score the first touchdown of today. I think he's going to have a solid game. a bad Houston secondary. Great front seven, great D-line. They can get pressure at a good rate. So I do like the Texans defense tonight. But ultimately, I think the Jets will put up some points. I think Adams will be a part of that. So yes, tonight I think will be the best game he's had so far. The bar's not very high. I do still have Adams a spot higher in my rankings, or rather Wilson a spot higher than Adams in the ranks. But ultimately, I do think this will be Adams' first score as a Jet, and maybe, just maybe, they get on track. Now, I will toss out one last bonus here, bonus stash, and I'm going to explain why, because I'm going to pull this name up. I'm just typing it in real quick because the thought just came to me as I was going live, and I added it in my own league, and maybe I'm nuts. But I do think Mike Williams deserves a little consideration for a couple reasons. First is, and what you're mostly hoping for, is that Mike Williams gets traded. There are very wide receiver needy teams, the Bucs, the Chargers. I could see them definitely calling and getting their man back. He has a great pre-established rapport with Justin Herbert. That would be the best spot, in my opinion, is going to back with his old QB. If not them, I think the Bucs are a gaping value hole right now while Mike Evans recovers from injury. Either way, if you stash him tonight, if you don't, you can't get a chance until the waivers clear on Wednesday. Well, the trade deadline is Tuesday. So if he's going to get moved, it's going to be between now and Tuesday. And if he gets moved to the Chargers, to the Chiefs, he's going to become one of the number one pickups, if not the face of the waiver wire week 10 articles. And you're going to have to pay some big money. And so I don't mind stashing him right now. If I have some bench trash, my example, I was rostering two defenses. I have the Saints for the matchup. I have the Broncos because they're killing it. I dropped the Broncos. Hey, they're facing the Chiefs next week. You can't start them this week against the Ravens. Then they have their bye. See you later. I can't hold out for a defense for 3 weeks to have a second defense. I'd rather see, does Mike Williams get moved? And so, especially because I'm also on Yahoo, if he does not get traded or does absolutely nothing, then I can cut him. It is a little trickier on like ESPN, for example, where it locks your bench players even after they play. Even if you haven't started them, you can't cut them. That does make things a little trickier here. But if you have some roster flexibility and you certainly have a little trash to cut, I think Mike Williams is one of the better options you could stash. I thought I had a sneeze. I was about to mute it and sneeze. That wraps up all the storylines I have for you guys. Just to reemphasize again, I am betting the Texans tonight. Ultimately, the betting trends that I forgot to go over at the top, there was just a handful of notes here to help you out. The Jets are 0-5 against the spread across their last 5 games. When the Jets are close favorites, they have been just abysmal. So ultimately, they are bad. They're 0-4 outright against the spread against teams with better records. They're 0-3 against the spread when the line is +3 or -3, and they're 3-12 in their past 15 games in this situation with plus or minus 3 points as well. Meanwhile, the Texans are 5-1 against the spread as road underdogs. The Jets are 1-6 against the spread in their past 7 primetime games. So ultimately, all these signs do point toward the Texans, which I agree with, which again is why we're all going to get fleeced. Granted, too, I will admit, last week I was all the signs pointed to the Vikings, but I was feeling in my gut it had to be the Rams. I was feeling great about them last week. Not so much this week. I am definitely on board with the Texans and the general public on this one. All righty, guys. Thank you so much for sitting through that. We just am seeing right now, we have some super chats. I am so sorry I did not get to these already for you guys. Let's mow right through them. I know the truth can't be here tonight. I know my man Campanelli's got some Halloween things going on. It looks like he did pop in, so good to know he will be here the rest of the time. But as always, we do like to let these super chats cut the line here. Let's dive on in here. Dell tonight or wait on Tillman for Anthony Fella. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fella. Appreciate your support. As always, super chatting your boy. I do think this is tough. I'd probably go Dell tonight. I have both these guys. I have Tillman 10 spots higher than the ECR. I have him at wide receiver 23. I have Dell at wide receiver 21, though. So they are very, very close. And that does mean, if you really were feeling the Tillman experience, you want to keep riding this train out, go for it. My only caution there is they have had 2 of the easiest possible matchups since Tillman started breaking out. And now they get a tougher matchup for wide receivers against the Chargers. Dell doesn't have the easiest of spots either, facing the Jets tonight by any means, but Sauce has definitely been lesser this year. So I'm going to go Dell tonight. I think he's going to get hammered with targets. The only time he saw more than 7 targets this year, he put up 18 points. I feel okay about him. And if he doesn't do it tonight, it's never. It's now or never for Dell, and that's how I feel. If you really do like Tillman more, though, I understand it. But myself, I'm going Tank Dell there. Folanini, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Happy Halloween. Love the emojis here. Wilson or Adams tonight? I would go Garrett Wilson, as we talked about in those stats earlier. I think he's going to force it to Rodgers. I do think Rodgers is going to force it to Adams. I do think Adams is going to score the first touchdown here tonight. I still can't really get behind him over Wilson, given how much better Wilson has been since they arrived, given that Wilson has seen more volume since Adams arrived. I'm going to keep riding that one out with him. And Mr. Tyler Sperry, no one will give me a straight answer. Well, I'll give you a straight answer, Mr. Perry. And thank you so much, Sperry. You constantly super chat. It is so greatly appreciated. You're a legend. Dell versus Sauce, Reed, or Coleman, start one. So I know he's facing, Dell has the Sauce Gardner matchup, but I've said it before. I do not think this is the same Sauce. I also don't think it's the same Tank Dell. So maybe those two things balance each other out. But this is not the terrifying Jets defense where you couldn't set a wide receiver in against them. I would go Reed of all of these guys, though. The only reason, so I want to give you a straight answer, right, Tyler? The only reason this is a hard one to give a straight answer on is we don't know Jordan Love's status. If Malik Willis is the QB, I'd probably bump Reed below Tank Dell. But we're not going to know that. It sounds like Jordan Love is doing everything he possibly can do to play in this game, and I expect him to. My guess is he plays, and so in this situation, I would wait it out for Jaden Reed. He gets Detroit, third most points allowed to wide receivers, shootout atmospheres each and every week. For them, a abysmal secondary, a great front seven. So teams just have to throw all day against them. So I really like Jaden Reed this week. He, assuming Love is in, will be a top 12 wide receiver for me. I like Dell this week. I like Dell more than Coleman. So if it ends up being Malik Willis, that's kind of rough. But hey, I would wait this one out because Coleman's not a bad start either. Double-digit points, 15 last week is season high. So I think this is one you waited out. So I know this isn't like the straightest of answers, Tyler. But if I'm making this decision today, this is what I do. I wait it out. I don't play Dell. I'd rather play Jaden Reed. I would rank them Reed, then Dell, then Coleman is how I would have these ranked myself. So I hope that's as straight of an answer as I can give you. I gave you a little context around each of them and why I rank them that way. So yeah, best of luck, Tyler. Thank you again so much for supporting the show each and every week. You are such a legend. NC Firearms asking, start Cousins or Darnold? That's a good one. I would say this. Darnold is the choice because Cousins has done it only twice this season, and only twice this season, both have been against Tampa Bay. He doesn't get Tampa Bay again this week. Now, I love that matchup. I think the Indy, especially with Joe Flacco. Oh, no, they're facing the Vikings. That's why I love Sam Darnold. I think with Flacco on the other side, that game becomes a bit more shootout upside potential, which could keep Darnold pushing the ball. It's been wild with Darnold because he'll score like 18 points in the first half and then have really bad second halves. But he's still getting it done for you. He's still routinely a top 12 guy. And whereas Cousins, sure, he has a little bit of the higher ceiling and the 500-yard upside. I get it. It's nice. But I definitely go Darnold here, given the track record this year and given that Cousins really just has not done it over anybody other than the Bucks here. Make me lean towards Sam Darnold here. I'm just publishing an updated ranking where I bumped CJ Stroud down just a little bit. Guys, thank you so much for your generous super chats. And sorry again, Fella and Fellanini and Tyler. I didn't mean to make you guys wait that out while I got through the news. I just didn't know. We don't have the moderators. We're down a few men tonight because of Halloween. So a little short chat. But now the rest of the time, I will have the questions pulled up. And that way these super chats will pop up for me indeed. If anybody is feeling so kind to keep the lights on over here to support your boy, you can cut the line with a super chat. It would be so greatly appreciated. If you need to get in and out for trick-or-treating, need to cut the line, that would be a good way to do it. But if not, a free way to support your boy is that thumbs up or heart button. It really does help us get out to more people, sharing it, retweeting it, all that good stuff really does help us grow. So thank you again so much. Please do consider a thumbs up button, and let's dive into your mailbag for Halloween. Starting off with my man, Papa Sarno. Alrighty, my man Craig Sarno asks, "Sup, boys? The boys are not together tonight, unfortunately, but not a problem at all. My man Truth had to get trick-or-treating, which I more than understand. You got to get your family time in. He's asking, half PPR. If Thielen is back, do you start him over Worthy, or I could pick up Wandale or Leggett? Also, would you start Taysom or pick up either Schultz, Ertz, or Henry? I would go Taysom. It comes down. I do like Henry, though. So Taysom has the biggest ceiling. There's no doubt about that. Just because he has probably the biggest ceiling of all but like 5 to 6 tight ends in the league. 2 touchdown upside. Very few have what Taysom Hill can bring to the table in that sense. That being said, and you got the Carolina matchup on deck as well. So that really helps, no doubt. For some reason, I don't have Taysom Hill ranked. I definitely put him in. I gotta adjust that too. So just like thinking it through, I won't do the ranking and fixing it all right now. I would probably rank these guys: Hunter Henry 15, Zach Ertz 16, Taysom Hill 17, right in between Ertz and Fant. So like I do have these guys all in a line. It's not Schultz for me. I just do not trust the guy, as we talked about earlier. Although I do have him at 18. So all these guys are in the same tier. So a very tough question in that sense. I do think Henry's like the balance of floor and ceiling, whereas floor is Zach Ertz and ceiling is Taysom Hill. So you kind of figure out what you need the most of those three things to not. I don't mean to give you a non-answer. I would play Henry in 90% of situations, but if my Fez league, for example, I'm I'm 41% to 59%. I'm an underdog. I might go and lean Taysom Hill in that case because I have some ground to make up. But if you just want some nice safe points, Ertz is the safest. I think Hunter Henry is a nice balance of them. Although with Brissett, if Drake May's out, I don't even want anything to do with Hunter Henry. So I would probably, if Drake May's in, that's Hunter Henry. If not, I go Taysom Hill or Ertz, floor versus ceiling, whatever you need more. Papasarno also asking, half PPR, need one receiver, running back, and flex. Dobbins, Connor, Tracy. Doesn't seem like Tracy's going to play, so I'm going to assume he's out for this. And Sarno, I imagine I'll see you on Sunday as well. So if we get updated news, we'll update this question. But for right now, I play James Conner at running back. He's kind of a must start for me at this point. Awesome wide receiver 1 and running back 1. You can't get much better than those two. In terms of the wide receiver, I would play Maserati Marv, and then I'd go Downs in the flex. That's tough, but I really love Downs this week, up to wide receiver 18 for me, averaging 19.2 PPR points with Joe Flacco. He's a must start for me, probably even over Marv. So like Marv versus Dobbins, that does get tricky, but I do lean Marv after that big game he had last week. And I would go Laporta over Kraft, assuming it's Malik Willis, but if it is Jordan Love, then I would flip those two and go Kraft over him against Detroit. Eric Buckman, what's going on, brother? QB, Murray, Geno, May, Cousins, or Knicks this week. Whew, a lot of good options. I would say I think I'm leaning Kyler Murray on this one. He's started to find some steady, balancing it out. The offense seems to be really finding its groove here these last few weeks. He's got 21 or more in 3 of his last 4 games, Eric. I'm going to ride that one out. Chicago, not a good matchup. Definitely scary in that sense. But there's a path to that game shooting out. And the rest of these guys just, I feel like, are a tier below Murray, in my opinion. And then in terms of receiver or flex, Tillman, Dobbins, Stevenson, Otten, and Thielen. Whew. This is a great question. I don't remember if you are full PPR or not, Eric. But I'm leaning Tillman. And I'm honestly, it comes down to Dobbins or Otten for me, as crazy as that is. And Otten gets the best possible matchup for a tight end. The Chiefs are going to have the most points to the position. So especially if this is full PPR where you get like the dink and dunk points, I'd probably go Tillman and Otten. The decision for me comes down to Tillman, Otten, or Dobbins. I know we got a good week out of Stevenson. This is actually the right type of game script for him too. This is a really tough one, Eric. I'm not going to lie. These guys are all like pretty intriguing to me. I think I crossed Thielen off. I don't mind stashing the guy, seeing if he gets traded or maybe he becomes the number 1 there, but I'm not starting him. It definitely comes down to the other 4. And I would go Tillman again for the wide receiver. So you're locking him, and then it comes down to the other guys for the flex. And right now, I weirdly am leaning Otten. I just think he's kind of the main vein, and he gets the right matchup this week. How we doing, boys? What's up, Frazier? Great to see you, man. Do I start Wilson tonight or wait for Tony Pollard in a smash spot if he makes it? You have some pretty good options here if Pollard doesn't make it and you don't go with Wilson. That's a good question, Frazier. You guys definitely got some solid ones to kick off our Thursday night stream here. I would lean probably playing – oh, man. I would go Pollard, I think. I would wait for Pollard here. it's a smash spot if he plays like you say. The Patriots are horrible run D because you have great fallbacks here too. It's just a matter of I also do like Garrett Wilson tonight, and I like that he's been playing pretty well with Rodgers so far. But I love Ladd. I heard some great stats today from Fantasy Points data talking about how Cleveland's the highest pressure rate, especially with just their front four. And when their quarterback's under pressure, Ladd McConkey is seeing the second highest rate of targets and performing very, very well on them. So the matchup seems great for Ladd too. I'll wait this one out for Pollard is how I play that, Frazier. It seems like that's kind of where you're leaning the way you wrote the question as well. Bulldog, what's going on, brother? Please pick one for half flex PPR. Otten, Pollard, or Tracy? Yeah, I would go, honestly, one, I think I have Otten above Njoku. This might be a double tight end lineup. It seems to me like Tracy's unlikely to play. So I'm going to cross him out for now, Bulldog. I hope to see you Sunday morning. I expect I will. But if Tracy is playing, this does become tougher. And Pollard as well. Is he going to play? We don't know yet either. The foot injury did not practice at all today. So he's getting sketchy too. But if all these guys are in and ready to go, Pollard, I think, is my preferred option. Yeah, that's how I would play this one, Bulldog. But great tight ends. I mean, maybe see if you could package Pollard and a tight end and get a big running back upgrade type of thing. Yo, soy Tony. Sorry, I skipped the first one for you. Baker or Winston? I'm going Baker. I know lost his weaponry, and it's scary, and it feels like the floor is just going to kind of cave in on him at any point. But I haven't seen it yet. The man has had one dud game. He's been over 20 fantasy points in 7 of 8 games, and that includes last week, his first game without all his weapons. 24 points, the QB7. I'm going to just keep riding this gravy train, and I love me some Baker right now. And I love Winston too, don't get me wrong, but I'm sticking with Baker right now. If BTJ sits, need to start 2. Flex to 1, start 2. Plays need flex to 1 PPR. Okay, I don't know exactly what you're saying here, but we need 2 of these 3 is my take here. And I lean, especially in full PPR, Wandale's kind of that PPR scam guy. I'd probably go Fergie. Legette's getting his first start, no Deontay Johnson, has a touchdown in 3 of his last 5 games, so he's been cooking too. But I'm leaning Ferguson, just the second clear number 2 in the Cowboys game. Think they're going to need to throw here. So yeah, I'll go Wandale and Ferguson there. Magic Mike, what's going on? Great to see you as always. If you were in my tragically unpredictable shoes, would you start D-Hop, Deontay Johnson, Ladd M, or Keenan Allen? I was just kind of getting that with Ladd. I love this, the pressure metrics that then benefit Ladd because he's the most heavily targeted wide receiver. Cleveland's the best at getting pressure on the quarterback. And the fact that we also see the Chargers a slight uptick in the pass rate over expectation this last week, the first positive time we've seen that. They've been negative pass rate over expectation in every week except last one. And the last 3 weeks, you've seen a trend up into that direction. We had Herbert cooking too. Maybe that's just his first healthy game, and they're going to start unlocking this guy a bit more. But either way, Ladd, coming off a 32-point PPR on DraftKings Day, I'm riding that train, baby. Magic Mike, let's go. Tua, C. Williams, or Rodgers for my man Shades here. I am going to go Tua for this one. 48.5 over under in that game. Big shootout potential. I like Tua. Shades. Cameron Zick, what's going on? I'm torn. Do I drop Jordan Mason for Tracy? Yes. I definitely would, because as long as if CMC's healthy, I don't think Jordan Mason's going to be the guy. Plus, you got the fact that Jordan Mason just got hurt himself and maybe got outplayed by Isaac Guerrero. It's not even a guarantee that that Jordan Mason is the number 1 handcuff. I do think he is, but it's not a guarantee. So, yes, I think Tracy Jr., who was absolutely cooking off a 20-point day, he might have his concussion for right now, but he was the clear starter. So I would go Tracy. And I would start – I don't think Tracy's going to play. So I would go Njoku, and I would go Bucky myself. TNUN, great to see you as always. Sit 1. Dell Downs, Devonta Smith, half PPR. I would sit – I think I'm sitting Tank in this one. Jags are too good of a matchup for wide receivers. Then Downs with Joe Flacco. I absolutely love the guy. Cannot bench him myself. So I'm resting Dell out of that one. TN, you win. Thoughts on Adams? Nick, we already gave that one. I am a little concerned that it's taken so long for those two to get going. Only 7 targets in back-to-back weeks for him compared to 9 and 8 for Garrett Wilson. But I do think they're going to force it to him, and I think he's going to score the first touchdown tonight. We have 500 of you here, Wolfpack. The first half hour is done. Thank you so much for being here. We did 1,000 on these, and I know it's Halloween. I don't fully expect the usual numbers. I understand it. But you could do us a real solid and give us that thumbs up or that heart button, because that would help more and more people to continue to discover. Hey, I will never complain, though. 500 of you here. That's amazing for this Thursday night. Love all the questions coming in. Let's continue to answer them. We did get a super chat here from my man, Ethan Pugh. Thank you so much, Ethan, for your support of the show. You regularly do so. Trade CMC and McMillan for Tillman and trade CMC and McMillan or Tillman for Saquon. Thanks. Man, that's a great question, Ethan. I do think I would pull. A lot of this does come down to where is your team, what's your record. There's so much nuance to trade questions, which makes this very hard. I do want to kind of figure out a way to give fantasy advice more like privately, where you screen share and I look at your roster, I look at your records, like especially when it comes to trade questions, it gets so difficult to do. So I'm looking into a system if that's of interest to people, whether it's through Patreon or something. I'll try to find a way for that. But assuming that one, you're in win now mode, you have CMC and you're not in great shape, and you got to get the win. Yeah, I would trade CMC and McMillan, I would rather keep Tillman. So if it's CMC and McMillan, 100%, even if it's Tillman, probably. Tillman does have the looks of a league winner to me, though, Ethan. So I would go CMC and McMillan for Saquon, particularly if I'm in win now mode, because he's going to destroy the Jag, get you some nice healthy points. Now, CMC could come back and be better than Saquon. There's no doubt about that. We saw last year. But Saquon looks like the CMC for the Eagles right now, and you're just getting that guaranteed. Whereas CMC is the unknown, could he be the guy that has gotten 20-plus points in 75% of his games since training the 49ers? Yes. He's only been outside the top 12 running backs like 4 times his entire 20 games there. It's insane. His track record is insane. Could he be that guy? Absolutely. They've taken it slow. He's ramping it back up. Could he practice on Monday and the tendonitis flares up and we do not see him all year? Yeah. So if I could get Saquon, who's probably as good as what CMC has been in the past, and all it takes is a McMillan, a waiver wire pickup, oh yeah, I'm absolutely getting Saquon in this one. And I have CMC. I hope he's my hero. Praying for it. But if I could move him in one of my waiver wire receivers and get Saquon right now, I wouldn't bat an eye. I would do it in a heartbeat. So Ethan, I was thinking there's nuance to this. I really don't see a situation where I wouldn't just like take the guarantee of Saquon and then hopefully find the next great waiver wire receiver that's going to pop up at some point. Thank you, Ethan, so much for the support. I hope that helps guide you. And I want it to be known too. Like I like trading for CMC right now. I do. I think it's a great move. I think getting ahead on that could make people some huge money down the stretch run here. But I, again, would also be more than open to trading him away if I could get Saquon, especially without much attached to it. So, but most cases, if you guys have like a CMC trade question, let me know. I'm happy to look at it. Most cases, I'm going to say go for it, but that is not one of them. I would much rather have the Saquon side. Dan, what's up? Trade Devonta, Olave, and Bucky for Keon, Neighbors, and Javonte. Just gut reaction to that, I prefer the Devonta, Olave, Bucky side. I think Neighbors is definitely the best player of the deal. So I do think it matters how much do those depth pieces surrounding it matter. Like if you're getting the true stud and the other guys are kind of like, you're starting maybe one of them a week. You don't need both of them in the lineup. If you need all 3 of these guys in the lineup, I take the first one. If you really just need 2 of them, or God forbid, just Neighbors, that you're getting decent pieces enough with them. I don't love Javonte. He kind of is more Neighbors and Keon for those other 3, which Neighbors is good enough to probably pull that trigger. But my knee-jerk reaction is I like the top 3, especially if you need to use them all. G. Wilson or Adams tonight, Filoni. I know you super chat this one, and I said I'm going Garrett Wilson. But I'm also probably putting a bet on Davante Adams' first touchdown. Hey, bro, what's up, Cap for Life? Dell or McMillan? I would go Dell in this situation, no doubt about it. Should get absolutely hammered with targets. What's up, Droid? Start 1 QB and 2 flex. Joe Flacco, Kyler. I'm going Kyler in that case. He's been really cooking again, 20-plus in 3 of his last 4 games. And then we need 2 flexes out of. Achan's the lock here, Droid. We're not going to ask. I just want to say this one about Achan, just because you give me the opportunity. No, most people should not be asking about Achan. In his 3 games with Tua, he has had 25 or more PPR points. I believe it's well over 20 and a half PPR settings as well in the 3 games he's played with Tua. I know it's small sample size and causation correlate. He has been rock solid, and he's dominating as a wide receiver. Like, he is maybe their wide receiver 2. Like, he's seeing more looks than Jalen Waddle. He's averaging more yards per route run when split out wide than Jaden Waddle. Achan is an absolute stud. I only want to go on this rant a little bit just so you guys out there, if you can somehow buy him, if there's any window to secure Achan, probably not anymore after what he did last week, but if there is one, like, go get him. The guy's a stud. He is exactly what we thought he was going to be. The offense as a whole was disastrous for 3 weeks, but Achan is A+ gold. So if you can get him on an A+ player for a B+ price right now, go and do it. So you're starting him, and you should go. I want to say, I don't think T. Higgins is going to play, and if he does, I'm worried about that. So it comes down to JK or Lad. We're talking about our Chargers here for this one. And I keep wanting to say Lad. Like, JK is going to get the 20 carries. He's getting all the volume. It looks like he's running out of gas a little bit to me. I like Lad. I see one guy cooking and rising, and I see one guy that's kind of flattening out with those 2. So I lean Lad, and Achan's the no-brainer, though. Jared Cedier. Mayfield over Stroud. Yep, for me, absolutely. Tyler Sperry. I know you super chat this one. Dell, Reed, or Coleman. Start 1. So we already talked about that one in the super chat. I do rank them, assuming Jordan Love is in. Reed, then Dell, then Coleman. I know that's tricky because Dell plays tonight, but I do think I'd wait this one out for Jaden Reed, because if Love plays, he's in an absolute monstrous upside, top 10 type of situation. We did get a super chat, so we will be right on back with you because we had to jump to Horizon Fios. I like the name, Horizon Fios. Thank you so much for the support. $5 super chat here. Half PPR, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex. So you got Cook, Dobbins, Chase Brown. So we need to sit one of those guys. Sadly, I think it's Chase Brown, and I love the guy. But he is the riskiest of all of them. And then for receivers, I mean, you're starting CD. Come on. You super chatted. I won't go too deep at you, but you don't have to ask about CD Lamb. You can limit this one to 1 receiver, 1 flex. There's not a world where you're betching CD Lamb. We both know that, Horizon Fios. So for 1 last receiver and flex spot, MHJ, Shakir, Waddle, or Addison. So I go Chase Brown actually in the flex here. Okay, you got to lock in MHJ. That's going to be your other wide receiver. Coming off one more big game, maybe they finally figured out how to use him the right way. It seemed like his route tree was expanded upon, and he really thrived because of it. So CD, MHJ, lock him in for your 2 receivers. The flex for me comes down to Shakir and Chase Brown. It is half PPR, so that narrows the gap even further. I would have said in the full PPR, Shakir, the dink and dunk, too valuable to pass up. But I love Chase Brown this week. The Raiders are absolutely just dreadful as a defense as a whole, but especially dreadful against the run. I think this could be like a Chase Brown 2-touchdown week. So I'm going to go CD, MHJ, Cook, Dobbins, Chase. Shakir being that like next man up. Crazy that Waddle doesn't even enter the discussion for me quite yet. But maybe the only guy that didn't look like a ton more life with Tua back. Should eventually, but a lot of good options there. So thank you so much again, Horizon Fios, for the super chat. One last time, I'd go Cook, Dobbins, Chase Brown in the flex, and CD and MHJ at wide receiver. Thank you again so much for the support. Let me find our place. Thank you again, guys, so much for being here. We were at Brody over here. And one more time, again, so grateful for your super chats. A nice, free, easy way to help us out is that thumbs up on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter. Just so appreciated. Your boy grind out your sit starts for you over here on Halloween. That's what I love to do, though. So please do consider showing a little appreciation by just clicking that button on over here. It would mean the world. And thank you again so much for being here. Brody asking. Oh, and of course, I've seen a lot of new names, including you, Brody. I don't know if I've seen you before. And if I have, welcome back. But if you're new here and you would like to see this, I go live 3 times a week. Sunday at 8 a.m. will be my next time. Please hit that subscribe button. We want to keep growing the channel. We're almost at 5,000 as we continue to climb. It is awesome to see. It's so, it's just incredible, the amount of great new people we've been able to welcome in this year. And we want to keep growing the pack, baby. Brody asking, I have both Davante Adams and Tank Dell. Who do I start? Woo-hoo. That's a good one. One of these two top 20-ish wide receivers for the week. I just have more faith in Adams, I feel like. I don't know. Like, the Tank Dell, there's obviously the peppering narrative. Like, how does this guy not see 1,000 targets? He just hasn't done anything this year, and the matchup's really hard. Like, can he thrive with double coverage? Probably, but if either he looked like himself or CJ Stroud looked like himself from last year, I just need one of the two. But neither really. The offense as a whole, I don't know if I necessarily even blame Stroud. It's just the play calling. It's not the same Texans team. It doesn't seem like the same Texans player in terms of Tank Dell either. And I just, like I said, I think Adams' first touchdown, I'm feeling it. So I'm going to go Davante Adams for that one, Brody. Chat, Armando N. Would you guys start Josh Downs over Adams? I would. I have Josh Downs wide receiver 15, just ahead of Garrett Wilson and Adams, right in front of him, Armando. I love him. 19.2 PPR points with his games with Joe Flacco. Just rock solid. Red and black, the Wolf. Need a PPR flex. J.K. Downs. Oh, J.K. I'm guessing it's J.K. Dobbins, Downs, Bigsby, Stevenson, or Ridley. I like Downs the most here. And I like Downs more rest of season now that Flacco, they've kind of committed to him for more than just a week. I really like Downs, and I love Tillman. I would probably say Ridley's my first drop, but maybe that's because I'm bitter and I already dropped him myself. I think maybe he's just going to go off now. It happens to me every year. I'll drop a receiver I'm sick of, and then he goes crazy. So that's probably going to be Ridley this year. But I would truly have Downs, then Tillman, then Ridley. That's how I rank them on the rest of season big board over at rotostreetjournal.com for anybody that has any interest. Check it on out, rotostreetjournal.com. All our written work, all my rankings, and, of course, we got the live shows here. Start McLaurin. I'm sorry. I know I'm promoting a lot tonight. I know I shouldn't keep doing that. But I'm just so happy to have you guys here. Let's go. Start McLaurin at New York Giants or DK versus the Rams. DK, big question mark, so tough to truly know, but I'd probably go McLaurin either way. Just great rapport right now with Jane Daniels. Steven S. Trade Connor, Burrow, Coleman for Kamara, Mostert. I only start Connor. Yeah, I guess, yeah, if you don't need Burrow, then sure, you're getting the best player on the rankings, especially with Carr back. Kamara's an absolute PPR machine, Steven. Stroud or Love? I would wait it out for Love. I'd kind of need to know, though, Richard, who your next option might be. But given that I have Stroud down at like QB 17, 18, I'd probably just sit and wait it out. Wolfie Howell, let's go, Jose. Start Kareem or Tyrone if he plays. Tyrone doesn't seem likely to play. I'm just kind of putting him out my head. I'm going to go Kareem myself. Sit Stroud. If so, Darnold, Bo, or Goff. I would rank them. Goff. Great options. So the answer first is yes, you're sitting Stroud. I think I would rank these guys Darnold, then Goff, then Bo. I really like them all, but I personally lean Darnold. I think that game is even more fun now with Flacco. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Darnold on that one. EW1 Kicks has just subbed up. Love to have you. Thank you so much, EW1 Kicks. Hopefully I'll see you at more streams. Would love to keep helping you out, answering questions. So appreciative of your subscription. And anybody else that wants to join on up, hit that sub button, help the boy out, continue the climb to 5K. Dell, Adams, or DJ Moore. If I need one, it's Adams. I would rank them Adams, then Dell, then DJ Moore, RD Mott. Would you start Coleman over Dell? No, I would go Dell in that case, Mr. Sperry. Love what I'm seeing from Coleman, but I think Dell tonight just has to get peppered. 3-piece, one fail. Flacco or Stroud tonight? I go Flacco over Stroud. I do. And start, man, that could be, it feels so weird to say. But yeah, I just have so much faith that Flacco is going to be very serviceable for fantasy at minimum. And we saw the ceiling. It was the QB2 in points per game last year. He's just balling. He's having fun out there. I love it. Diagnosis defense is better than like half the league at the minimum. Then we got half PPR sit one. JSN, Waddle, Tillman, or Tank Dell. I would sit. I'm leaning JSN. I just don't like the guy. I have him on my team, and he just angers me. He never seems to hit his ceiling. DK's probably back. He's just always looks pretty good on the plays he makes, but then doesn't make them that consistently. So I would sit JSN there. Dylan Dieterman, start Tank Dell or wait out Brian Thomas Jr. I'd wait out Brian Thomas, especially it depends on who your backup plan is, but I think Brian Thomas is worth the wait. PPR, Adams or Dell. I go Adams. In the same position, I have Dobbs. So that's a great backup plan. I think Dobbs is a pretty good backup plan. That's what I would wait for. I really don't want to play Dell tonight. If you're not feeling the scrubs, I would wait it out for Brian Thomas anyways, especially if your gut's not feeling like, you got to trust the gut, baby. Let's go. Tyler Sperry. Thank you. Better than anybody else. You get straight to the point. Hey, Tyler, thank you so much. You consistently super chat, man. I see it every time, every show. I don't know if there's a single one you haven't. I don't want you to keep feeling the obligation to keep the streak. Like you've done more than enough. You were so generous all year. I'm happy that you enjoy the show. I'm glad that you find it valuable, but you've already been so generous. I really just want to make sure I tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you, Tyler. The Scrub 78. I think it's just a mix-in some Schultz week. I keep hearing the Schultz thing. I don't know the Scrubs. I see a guy with a season high of 7 points and never all the other games have been below 5. I know the 6 targets or more in 3 straight games, and what has he done with it? He hasn't had a single top 12 tight end week, and he hasn't scored a single touchdown. He's a tight end 25. Maybe it is. Maybe this is the week, the Scrubs. I'm not going for it, but definitely a mixing week. There's no doubt about that. 27 or more points in all his full games. The guy is an absolute monster. One of the best picks you could have made this year is Joe Mixon. Rick McBluff. Need flex wide receiver. I have McMillan. Wondering if I should get Jerry Jeudy off waivers instead. I don't think Judy's I like McMillan, and now you have Shepard potentially likely out with a hamstring injury. So I think McMillan is a solid bet to potentially now. Last week we saw 60% of the slot snaps go to Sterling Shepard. I wrote about McMillan. I know it's a lot. We've learned a bit more, so maybe we update that. Last Sunday, though, I talked about him and his 67% slot rate in college, and I thought he was a great waiver wire pickup, a great potential guy to have in the holster. And then we had Jalen McMillan kicked to the outside where he's been all year, and Shepard took over that slot role, but he had a hamstring injury. And even with the hamstring injury, like Raheem Jarrett came in and mixing, he's actually a sneaky, potentially intriguing guy too. But I would love to see McMillan get a little bit of a slot role this week. I think it's more intriguing. As good as James Winston was, Jeudy was like the distant third behind Elijah Moore. If you're going for one of those guys, I'd go Moore. Certainly Tillman, number 1. But I can't imagine he's still out there. But I like McMillan more either way. I don't want to start Dell. Hey, you got to trust your gut. Tired of blowing my season. Dylan, there's no one blaming you. I'd love to know who your other options are. But at the end of the day, like sometimes you got to just send the guys out. I cut Calvin Ridley, and now I'm thinking I was a little rash there. But so you got to send the message one way or another. Send him to the flex, send him to the bench, send him to the absolute dumpster fire. We'll see. What's up, Omar? Happy Halloween to you. Great to see you. Should I start Xavier Worthy or Rashad White? Full PPR. I want to keep turning away from White, and all he does is keep scoring points. So, I do like what I'm seeing out of Worthy. I saw a little bit of a roll bump, a little more of those layup looks, and it's a great matchup against Tampa Bay. There's no doubt about that. But, Rashad White's the opposite of a good matchup, too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the hardest matchup for running backs. The dude just keeps scoring week in and week out. He's playing well as a receiver. He seems to be one of the main ways. You can't just think of him as a running back versus defense because they're not using him just as a running back, obviously. So I go Rashad White. He just keeps putting up the points. Worthy's there's just a nice baked-in floor to White, and the ceiling's been pretty good too, similar to Worthy's. And Worthy just has much more of a chance of not doing anything for you. Man, mention him against the Bucs is tough, but yeah, I'd go Rashad White right now. Omar, let me know. Let me think that one through till Sunday. That's a tricky one. I know. I expect I'll see you there, hopefully. But let me know either way. That's tough. G. Wilson or Olave? I am leaning Wilson, but you got no more Shaheed. We just saw this offense designed around Olave. I'm looking. I just think the more I think through Olave, I'm a little too low. Derek Carr comes back. 14 targets last week. Sheesh. Eight catches, 107 yards. Yeah, I got to move him up. So I would go Olave. That's why I love these shows is I have my rankings and I feel great about them. And then, when push comes to shove, who are you actually going with? And to me, it's Olave. It's tricky because him and Carr, the one issue I have had with him is it just seems like him and Carr can never get on the same page. I don't know why. Carr is throwing grenade missiles down the field to Rashid Shaheed, but Shaheed's no longer there. As great of a season as he was having, brutal backbreaker loss to a lot of people out there. He was awesome, especially in best ball. But he's not there anymore, and that's a huge chunk of plays, and there's really nobody. I mean, Bum Means is the number 2, and he got hurt. So Mason Tipton step on up. They got nothing. So, yeah, I think Olave is going to get absolutely showered again. 14 was a sign of things to come. It's against the Panthers. I got to go Olave here, and I do not have that as my ranking. So, Colby, thank you so much for asking a ranking-changing question. That does not happen very often, but, I'm bumping him up to ahead of the Jets guys for now, just to make sure I have that in for the night. And then he might go higher, but he's risen to the wide receiver 16 for me, just ahead of Wilson for right now. And then I'll keep adjusting these ranks and see where he gets later. But for the sake of getting this out before the game starts, just want to push this through. Thank you guys for your patience. I'll pull up the scrubs. Thank you again, Colby. Great question. The scrubs asking, will I take a quick swig of water? Thank you again so much for your patience, guys. Especially if I could be playing BTJ. Oh, yeah. So you're a part of that, weighted out on BTJ. And yes, I'm fully aboard that train. He practiced limited. I don't trust we had Travis Etienne practicing limited for 2 weeks now. He hasn't played. So I don't know if I give it much credence. The original diagnosis was 2 for 4, but we know BTJ is well worth waiting it out for. There's no doubt about it. Seamus Mullen, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Say Flowers, Josh Downs, Jalen Waddle. Which to start? I would say Josh Downs. You got some great receivers, Seamus. The only one I'm crossing out is Jalen Waddle. He could return to the scene, but he's on the list of I need to see it before I trust it again as long as I can. And you certainly can with these options. Downs, Reed. I think Downs and Reed are where I currently stand. Just because, too, if it isn't Love, Zay Flowers is a very easy pivot. He's a great play, too. Tank Dell's right in that tier with these guys. So if you wanted the Thursday juice, you could, but he's at the bottom of the tier for me, whereas Reed's at the top of it. I would go Downs and Reed. Yeah, take the gamble, baby. Fire. You can tell. I can tell the way you're asking the question, the scrubs. You're feeling it in your belly. You gotta wait. You gotta ride out the gut there. Take the gamble, BTJ. I'm there. I think he plays, and if he doesn't, Tank Dell's no lock to do anything tonight. He could. He could have a huge game, but BTJ has been rock solid all year, and Dell hasn't. So I'm gonna. Sometimes, especially in the NFL, coaching decisions can be easy. You just ride the guy that's getting you there. So he's worth waiting it out for. Sorry, I didn't mean to mix this one for you, Swavey. Rest of season. And I do have rest of season rankings over at rotostreetjournal.com, so you can go find those at any given point. I would rank them Tyreek, then Collins, then McLaurin, then DK. I would say Tyreek and Collins are a tier above the other two. And then I would go McLaurin and DK. Now DK, once he's healthy, could definitely leap McLaurin, but I do think Collins and Tyreek are going to be in tiers of their own. Not completely of their own, but compared to those 4 options, they're the next level. Yep, exactly. So yeah, I can hear you, the scrubs. You're playing them. Go for it. You're waiting for BTJ, Laporta or Andrews. I would go Laporta here. A droid. I think without Jameis, he's going to continue to go there. I read that 90% of the time they play with that specific injury, with only 10% regression for the week. All right, good to know, Dylan. That's good info that I didn't even have. So thank you. Pick a flex: Hubbard, Myers, Coleman, or Bigsby for Blue Yays. I would lean here. I think Hubbard. The Saints have been, but if Brooks plays, then Hubbard's off the table. No more trust there. I do think Hubbard would be the lead back, but the only reason you're playing him is short volume, and the short volume's coming in a good matchup against the Saints. Have been a very bad run D this year, but especially lately. Hubbard needs the volume though. I can't go there without it. I would lean of the other three, assuming Brooks, who practiced in full today, is in. I mean, if Travis Etienne's out, Tank Bigsby is the easy one. Especially if Travis Etienne's traded, then to the moon. I go probably Bigsby here, but if Etienne plays, then it's Hubbard, assuming Brooks is out. There's a lot of, you can hear the moving parts here, Blue Jays. Coleman would be the kind of like, nothing could really change, and I really like the option. So to me, it's Bigsby with no Etienne, Hubbard, if there's no Brooks and Etienne's in, and then you go to just Coleman as a fine option if it's the worst case. I know it's a lot. I don't mean to give you like three nondescript answers, but I'm just telling you how I'd play it myself. Yeah, BTJ gets 9 targets. I mean, the scrubs, no more Christian Kirk, and the Philly secondary, one of the worst in the league. BTJ could be, he's in my top 11 already. I'm just ranking him as if he's playing, and he's in my top 11. So yes, I would absolutely bench Tank Dell to get to BTJ. And if BTJ doesn't play, hopefully you have a good backup plan, but he has earned the right to show him that you'll wait for him. If that makes any sense. That's the type of manager you want to be. Coleman or Waddle? I would go Coleman. I'm going to ride the hot hand in that situation. Downs or Hopkins? Easy Downs for me. Rest of the season this week. I don't know if it will be as easy as I'm making it sound. If Hopkins really does get his legs under him in this offense, he could absolutely be a stud, playing a lesser version of the Rashee Rice than Juju Smith-Schuster role. Hopkins, if Juju can go 7 for 130, Hopkins could easily push that. So there's upside there, but we already know what Downs' upside is. At least it's a small sample, but 3 straight signs that this man will crush if Joe Flacco's his QB. I'll take 3 in a row. It's averaging 19.2 points per game. Yeah, give me Josh Downs. I wish I had him in more leagues. He's a stud. I'm done starting Dell unless I have. Dylan, I don't blame you at all. Davante Adams or Amari Cooper. I would go Adams there. Giuseppe, let's make Amari Cooper earn this role. I'm playing against Adams, so he's about to, I feel the same way. And I'm playing a scrub. I was saving it. I wasn't even going to say it. I'm facing Tank Dell. So I know Tank Dell is going to have a huge day today. So everybody, all the analysis we've heard throughout the show, throw it out the window. If you have Tank Dell, I'm facing him, and it probably means he's going to go bananas. But hey, I'm praying. I'm fingers crossed he doesn't. But that isn't it the worst when you're facing those guys that are a little boom bust, but always just do it. Tank Dell. It makes me nervous. Cooper or Cedric Tillman? I'm going to go Cedric Tillman here, especially full PPR. Moreno, the Cooper wrist thing, the Cooper disappearance last week. Cedric Tillman, meanwhile, just going back-to-back bangers. I love him. I'm going to keep riding that one. Ross H. Start Texans D tonight or Bengals defense? I would go with Bengals facing the Raiders there. I'm in playoffs. Hey, there we go. Still saw it. Saquon has he does have a great rest of season schedule. It was a no-brainer, I think, to me, Ethan. Get Saquon. Who do I flex? Dell, Chubb, or Higgins? I would flex. Higgins he didn't practice again today. I'd probably go with Dell there, AT. Too early to write off Carson Steele? I don't think so, Jaws. I don't know. I don't think they're ever he got his quick dash and he fumbled it away. And he might be on the team as a fullback in an emergency pinch, but if there's anything that's worth glancing at, Parker Washington, I don't see any reason to hold on to Steele and Dino. No. Connor or Chase Brown for my running back spot, and McLaurin or Neighbors for my flex spot. I'd go Connor over Chase Brown, and I would go Neighbors over McLaurin. That's how I would play that one. Off the Wall Cleaning Services, LLC. Thank you so much. Myers or Worthy? I lean Worthy there. I'm intrigued. Myers, I'm intrigued to see what he does, especially against the Saints. Not Saints, rather. The Bengals. Terrible defense so far this year. So Myers, the clear number one, kind of took that from Brock Bowers for at least a week. I don't think it continues, but saw it's within the weekly outcome potential. So I like Myers. But I do think Worthy against Tampa Bay is definitely the play for me. Just Tampa Bay matchup. I think we get a little bit of a points fest. I think we get like a hearkening back to the Chiefs of old. Mahomes is pissed off. Everybody talks about how he can't do it anymore. And of course, not in the sense of like he can't win anymore. Just like, oh, the man doesn't know where's the 400-yard and 4-touchdown Mahomes. Like the man could probably just whip it out of his ass this week. And sorry for the language. And just go nuts. But like he has that within easy. Just goes nuclear out of nowhere. Yeah, I think Mahomes throws a bomb to Worthy at least once. So I'm going to go with Worthy. Can you rank these 4 rest of the season? So, Swavey, I do have I already did that one, actually. And again, I just want to kind of harken to the rest of the season big board is up there, too, to help you guys out. Thank you for such a thorough answer. You're welcome. Thank you so much again for the support Horizon Files. I try to, especially with the super chats, I really want to make sure I dive in and give you guys a lot of meat for your support of me. It's so appreciated on your end, too. I got one more for you. Who should I start at QB? Dak? You have CD, Stafford, opponents Puka, or Tua. A lot of good context. Great. I'm glad you appreciate my answers. I appreciate the way you ask questions. It's nice context to have. I lean the Stafford route on this one. I love stacking up Dak and CD. I see that's the highest upside. If I'm an underdog, how do I gain a big edge? Is the Dak jump there? But I definitely think like just apples to oranges. Without the context, I like Stafford more. He's my QB 10. Dak's my QB 22. And then you get the idea that like Puka gets a little neutralized. He could certainly still kill you, and Dak couldn't have a huge day. But it's much more likely that those two almost kind of balance each other out. If not, Stafford wins it out. It'll probably be close. It's tough for Puka to go too much crazier than Stafford unless he just gets everything, which he's capable of. But I like Stafford here, and it helps. It's a little bit of a baked-in like floor there. To a fun shootout game, but I would go Stafford of these ones. Start Tank tonight. Puka knee injury just announced. Ooh, I did not know that. Thank you, Matthew, for bringing that to my attention. I don't know what the details are on the injury. Is he like laid up for the week? Is it scary? I need to I have not seen that. So Matthew, let me know where to look or send me like the text. Is it, who broke that? Because that's definitely something to consider. Maybe you do have to toss in Tank tonight. Cooper, what's up? A little bit of a pickle on who to start at wide receiver. Need to start 3. Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, Dobbs, Tank Dell, and BTJ with the injury. Thinking Devonta and Garrett Wilson for sure. I would agree that, Devonta and Garrett Wilson are the highest for me. Tank Dell is probably the next one up here, but I do like waiting it out for BTJ. He practiced in limited fashion. I know ETN that meant nothing for, so I don't want to overread into it, but it does seem like he's definitely trending the right way. So I lean going to BTJ. Good matchup against Philly. Seems like a situation they're going to need to throw. No more Cooper Kupp. I feel like BTJ, if he plays, is in an absolute smash spot. So I'm going to wait it out for that. Dell seems to be in that smash spot for volume. The matchup's not great. The game doesn't feel overly explosive. So I'm leaning BTJ, Smith, and Wilson there. Who should I have in my flex spot for Nicola? Flowers, Worthy, Dell, Stevenson, Madison, full PPR. I think your flex should be Flowers. Deontay worries me for the long term, but we've seen it when these receivers come in midweek. Hopkins, Cooper did have a good first game, but he's kind of already starting to fizzle out. There's a growing pain period, and I think Flowers will remain that main kind of engine. Even though he is at risk of game flow, I do like him. You're welcome, Swabby P. Thank you. Wolf pick 2 for Krana Shaw. BTR. I think you always. I just want to make sure when you say BTR, Krana, do you mean BTJ? You always write it BTR, and I want to just make sure I get it right. Because I don't know if you're talking about like Brian Robinson. If his middle name is Thomas, I don't know it. Something like that. Brian Thomas Robinson. I think you mean Brian Thomas, but I don't know where the R comes from. So yeah, just let me know. I would go Downs and Brian Thomas though, if those are the 2 options, if I'm reading it right. Downs or G. Wilson for Stroobs. I would go going downs. Chubb or Dobbins as running back 2. B-Rob or Chase Brown as running back 2. I would go Dobbins and I would go B-Rob. We start in Tank Dell. Reg, I've given him quite a few times, but there have been a handful of times I've definitely said no. So it does depend on the other options. A common one has been, do I wait it out for BTJ or do I just play Tank Dell? And I do think waiting it out for BTJ is how I would play this. I think that ceiling, if he's fully healthy, that ceiling is astronomical. Whereas Tank Dell does have that. If it was last year, Tank Dell, it would be a no-brainer right now, but it's not. It hasn't been. Maybe it will be for one night, but we've seen it all year from BTJ, and now it might be the best matchup with the best volume bet with no Christian Kirk now. So yeah, that's been the comment. I know it's not even your question, but I'm kind of giving you a measuring bar. I do have rankings at roadstreetjournal.com, which will detail who I would go over who. So that's always up there if you'd like to check those out. Shakir or Myers? I lean Shakir there, Krana. Waddle or Pop Douglas? I don't see much upside to Pop Douglas, so I'll go Waddle. There's definitely a world where he breaks back out. That's certainly where the line starts to get drawn for me. Guys, over an hour, 10 minutes. Thank you again. Happy Halloween to all of you celebrating. Thank you again so much for everybody that super chatted as well. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to continue to roll through this mailbag right up until kickoff, but would be so greatly appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for all the great questions. Would love to ultimately get more subscriptions here. Would love to have you guys join if you enjoy what you're hearing. Please do consider. And thank you again on Twitter. If you're hitting here and here, there, hit that heart button for me. You guys are awesome. That's where you guys have always been so fun to interact with there. Thank you guys again. Start Dell or wait Sunday. That's literally what we just talked about, Matt. Right on cue. Your question. Hopefully you heard all that. But yeah, I would wait it up for BTJ. Was the in last resort being Ridley, not too bad. So yeah, I wait that one out. Nicholas, start Mahomes or Cousins? I lean Mahomes. I really do. It's been a frustrating season. There's no doubt about it. But I would go Mahomes in this type of matchup. I mean, this is the matchup Kirk Cousins is throwing for 500 yards. I think we're going to get a Mahomes remind you, yeah, I can still do this. I just don't need to, but I can throw for 404 touchdowns. That's definitely in Mahomes' wheelhouse this week. All right, good to know, Matthew. I'll have to check Yahoo. I did not. They're saying it's the same knee. All right, sorry. I'll go back to Murray, then we'll get back to that on Puka. Some interesting news that I was not aware of. Have PPR. Start 1, Tolbert, Bucky, or Leggett. I would start. I'm liking Bucky in this one, Murray. I know the volume's getting a little more 50-50 to or even 40-40-20. Yeah. It's annoying, but he's just so damn good with his touches. I'm going to keep riding it out. No doubt about it, Murray. So I'm a big Bucky fan myself. So Puka after practice news, Tank tonight or D-Hop Monday for BK. So I think Matthew commented in some of the news. They're saying it's the same knee on Puka. Not sure how serious. Not sure I want to risk waiting to find it out. My other options in PPR are Tank and BT and DK. And DK is also questionable. So Matthew and I think BK, you asked similar questions here. I would probably get Tank in tonight. There is certainly enough of an upside narrative. The main the second points being, of course, Xavier Hutchinson is the next man up, and he's seen 2 targets across his last 3 games. John Mechie might get a little bit of volume here or there, but they're going to move it through the air. I don't buy Dalton Schultz. It's going to be through Tank Dell. There's definitely a very big ceiling to Tank Dell. When I'm saying bench him, it's more so for guys like BTJ or him. And D-Hop, not yet. Maybe eventually, but I do think this makes me nervous about Puka. If I had a grenade like Tank Dell in the holster, I would throw that one tonight. I would. So great question, BK. I know a lot of people might be in that type of situation, and I hope I haven't come across an anti-Tank Dell tonight. I had this guy last year. I had my heart ripped out when he got hurt. I love Tank Dell. He was the absolute man to me. I also am aware that because of how I saw him playing last year, it just hasn't been that this year, and it might not be his fault. It could be the play calling might just be way too conservative with Mixon now here. Maybe Stroud's not on the same level. Maybe Tank Dell is not the same exact guy right now. It just hasn't either way been the same situation and same quarterback play and same offense that was yielding those monster days. It's been a tough season in that sense, but when he's the only guy left right now, and we've seen him so capable of being that guy, we've seen Stroud be able to do this. It's been, since last season almost, those two ripped it up together. But there've been a lot of missed really close connections too. Maybe they all hit him tonight. There's definitely a world Tank has it hasn't been the same Tank, but could he just break out tonight and it is again? Yeah. So I think he's a very, very worthwhile, especially if you're in this type of headache situation. I do think BTJ is worth waiting it for. Knee is different. We already got some practices out of BTJ. A new fresh knee injury on Thursday, that worries me until we know more. We'll, of course, address it on Sunday. But, yeah, Tank, you have to decide tonight, of course, and I would go Tank in that situation, BK. Awesome. All righty, back on into. Thank you again for so much, BK. You're consistently super chatting. You guys are so generous. I really appreciate it. So we left off on Matthew telling us the news. I know that had to dive in a little bit deeper than I expected into that question, but I think for good cause. A lot of people probably have Puka that are watching right now, and now it's suddenly what do I do? Do I play Tank Dell tonight? Yes, I would play Tank Dell over Puka tonight. Pollard or Tank Dell in flex. I would lean. I just got done hyping Tank Dell, and I'm like, Pollard, the Patriots. I'm a Pats fan. Their run D is so bad. So I like Pollard in the right game script this weekend. We don't know yet about Tajay. Yeah, I go Pollard, but it's close. BTJ and JSN on the bench too. So again, yeah, BTJ, you have just firepower in the league, and could Tank Dell grenades go off tonight? Yes. The more I've talked about him, the more it kind of feels likely, especially again because I'm facing him. But you have good ammunition to wait this one out. If it was like the Colts, who you didn't do that much against, but you did score against. Yeah, it's just okay. Let's keep moving. But BTJ and JSN, yeah, again, I love BTJ. Start Kareem or Davante Adams. I lean Kareem on this one. He's just been so safe. I don't think the injury seems to be anything serious, Jude. And Tampa Bay, a good matchup in a tougher run D than a pass D, no doubt, but good in the sense of they can be scored upon, and they will be scored upon. And I think Kareem's going to probably score at least one himself. What's the good word, Mike? Yes. I think you asked this one earlier. Must have missed the kickoff, and no worries at all, Mike. Great. I'm glad to just get you the answer tonight. If you were in my tragically unpredictable shoes, that's why I remember it. Who'd you start? D-Hop, Deontay J, Lad M, or Keenan Allen? And I said Lad McConkey. Big fan of him this week. The Cleveland defense, one, is just not that scary anymore compared to last year. But two, they are great at generating pressure. Big compliment to that D-line, especially last week. And on pressure throws, Lad McConkey's second in the league in terms of getting targeted on in terms of a QB's rate of targeting the wide receiver. He's the magnet on these type of situations that the Browns generate more than any other. So I think Lad's in a great spot. And shout out to Ryan Heath of Fantasy Points for that stat. He's a great follow, and that stat was a great one. That was I fully buy that one. So Lad, who is just, I think he's in a great spot this week. So I'm leaning that way. I think he's on the rise, big time. Avery Mastriani. Sorry, not a start set, but should I trade Ramondre, Ladd, Bigsby for Aaron Jones and Dak? Full PPR, 12-man. Thanks in advance. I would lean on the Ramondre, Ladd, Bigsby side. I think that's a lot of ammunition. Dak is just about useless at this point. Even if you were desperate for a quarterback, I'm guessing you could go Flacco, Winston. So it's really Aaron Jones for three really good players. And no, I would not do that. Kareem Hunt or Davante Adams. We already answered that one for you, Jude. And so Avery had some context. Ramondre is my running back too. I'm strong at receiver. It's good context to have, but I feel like depth is so important every year. So as we get to injury season, as we get down, I think everyone's okay, once the playoffs hit, you can only start one lineup, and that is very true. But you might lose a stud in the playoffs to have Ladd ready to go. Those things do matter on the stretch run. A good bench should not be underlooked. even though I do get the other side of, you do only start so many guys, so getting studs is great. Those are 3 really good guys for 1 really good guy. That's how I look at it. Pick 2. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, or Aaron Jones. I like Kenneth Walker, and I like Breece Hall. Aaron Jones I do obviously like too, but there's just 3 great options, and I prefer the other 2. But nothing against Jones. No shade to him. I think he's in a great spot too. Andrews or Conklin. I do lean Conklin. No, I lean Andrews there. He's on a hot streak. He's scoring 3 straight weeks. 70. I believe it might have been 79%. It was in the 70s. I know that in terms of his route share last week. So like the highest season high. Seems like his legs are back under him. Seems like there's a chance we do get Andrews of the year. Of what we were expecting to get. So yeah, I like rolling out the guy. And all righty, guys, a little bit early here. That's fine with me. We got kickoff in just about 20 minutes, and that does wrap up the questions. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to get out early and go hang with the fam and hand out some candy and whatnot. So appreciate you guys being here for sure. And thanks again so much for everybody that super chat. That was so greatly appreciated. Very generous of all you guys. So thank you so much. And on your way out, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, check out my rankings updated at rotostreetjournal.com. Rest of season rankings, week 9 rankings, and I'll be live again on Sunday morning, 8 a.m. to hit all of your questions. Thanks again so much for everybody that was able to join tonight. Greatly appreciate it and all your support. It's so greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Best of luck tonight. Later.